Charter Communications, in partnership with the Raincross Group and the Press Enterprise, present the Riverside City Council Runoff Debate, Ward 3.
Welcome to the 2013 Raincross City Council Runoff Debates. My name is Colette Lee and I'm the president of the Raincross Group. For more than 20 years, the Raincross Group has been an advocate for open and effective city government in Riverside through the engagement with and development of local and diverse community leadership to improve our quality of life. This evening, with our partners, Charter Communications and the Press Enterprise, the Raincross Group is hosting a debate for candidates for City Council of the City of Riverside. These debates will be available for viewing by the voters on Charter Channel 101 and will be streamed online by the Press Enterprise on PE.com. The Raincross Group is sponsoring these debates because we believe voter participation and education are crucial to the electoral process, the local economy, the state budget impacts to our city, and the community vision for Riverside require that we have city leadership to act decisively but with discretion, fairness, and vision to improve our quality of life. The Raincross Group, Charter Communication, and the Press Enterprise hope these debates will promote further productive discussion of the issues associated with the current campaigns for City Council. We are fortunate to have as our moderator Brad Pomerantz. He is the award-winning reporter and correspondent for television, radio, and newspaper reporting in Southern California. Thank you, Brad, for agreeing to moderate the Raincross debates.
Thank you so much, Colette. I appreciate you having us here today. My name is Brad Pomerantz. Yes, I will be moderating today's councilmatic debate for Ward 3 in the city of Riverside. As you know, there are two candidates that are running for this seat. They are running for the unexpired term of Rusty Bailey. He was elected mayor, and now they are running to replace him. The election will be held on November 5th. These are the two surviving candidates from a primary election. Their names Valerie Hill to my right and Mike Subaru to my left. Of course, I would like to thank our sponsors this evening. They are the Raincross Group, and a special shout out to Colette Lee and Tom Hunt. Charter Communications, and we thank especially Del Heinz and Sandra Cuellar, and the Press Enterprise at PE.com. A special thank you to Nels Jensen and Gail Hammonds. I'd like to remind everyone that we are streaming on PE.com, and of course we are live on Charter Channel 101, and we are entering the 21st century. So if you'd like to tweet me any questions, you can do that at Brad Pomerantz, BradPomerance, or at PE.com_news. And again, I'd like to congratulate the candidates for advancing to the general election again on November 5th. During this forum, each candidate will have a chance to make opening statements. Then we will offer questions to both candidates. They will have a chance to answer and rebut. They will have a chance to ask questions of each other. And again, if you want to send questions in, you can do it by tweeting me at Brad Pomerantz. I'd like to begin this evening's discussion with an opening statement from Valerie Hill. You have 2 minutes.
Okay. I believe the first priority of government is to keep citizens safe, and that is what I did with the Riverside County Sheriff's Office for over 3 decades. While also raising a family and earning a business degree, I worked my way up through the ranks from deputy to undersheriff, becoming the first woman undersheriff in the Sheriff's Department 118-year history. As undersheriff, I was responsible for over 4,000 employees and a $500 million budget. So I know how to get things done and how to be responsible to the people and do it effectively. I will promote Riverside to prospective businesses, grow jobs, and enhance services, as well as develop partnerships to improve education and preserve Riverside's historic feel. This is my home, where my husband and I have raised our son. This is my community, where I continue to serve on the board of Operation Safe House, Riverside Area Rate Crisis, the Riverside Community College District Foundation, as well as serve as a member of Riverside Kiwanis and on my church board. I make the tough decisions, and you will find my door is always open, and I thank you for this opportunity to talk with you tonight.
And I thank you. We are now joined by Mike Subaru, also a candidate for Ward 3 Riverside City Council. Mike, you have 2 minutes.
Very good, thank you. And I'd like to thank Press Enterprise, the Raincross Group, and Charter for having me here tonight to participate and with Ms. Hill. And I just want to say hello to all the Ward 3 residents out there and also the people that live in Riverside, all my fellow Riversiders. And thank you for tuning in. And I just want to let you know a little bit about me. I started out as a young Cub Scout at age 8 with a parent that kind of put the foot in my backside to instill in me good values about getting out and serving the public. After Cub Scouts, I became a Boy Scout and earned the rank of Eagle. And after that, I joined the Civil Air Patrol and eventually the California Highway Patrol. I served on the California Highway Patrol for 29 years as a road officer, riding motorcycles, and also later on as a supervisor, a sergeant, and also as a manager, as a lieutenant, and then ultimately an acting commander of the San Gorgonio Pass CHP office. My whole life has been community service. It's all about serving the public. It's all about what I can do to serve you in Riverside. And just to let you know that my family, my wife, she is an adjunct professor at Cal Baptist University. My daughters have also attended the local universities. One is at Cal Baptist University now, and the other one was at La Sierra University and just moved over to nursing school over at Loma Linda University. So I would just like to say good evening and look forward to the debate tonight.
Candidates, thank you so very much. During this portion of the conversation, I'll be offering questions to each candidate. And the first question is as follows. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond and a 30-second rebuttal if so desired. And the first answer will come from Mr. Subaru. And the question is as follows. As a charter city, Riverside relies on shared governance among the council, mayor, and staff, which means matters get done through collaboration and consensus building. Please share with us an example from your background on how you were able to collaborate and build consensus in a way that led to a positive result. Mr. Subaru.
Well, thank you. When I was a commander with the California Highway Patrol out in the San Gorgonio Pass area, and also as a supervisor working out of the Riverside area, there was a number of projects that I worked on that helped our roads enhance the safety of our roads. One was Cajalco Road, which was out between La Sierra and Temescal Canyon. I partnered with our local Riverside County Transportation, some of the officials there, and saw the need for turnout lanes so that the trucks that were driving up a steep hill would be able to negotiate and be able to pull out and make things much safer for the traffic. Also, Gilman Springs Road, we're into its second phase right now of making it safer with turnouts and pullouts. So I was able to collaborate with local government and reach a consensus with them to be able to build a much safer roadway. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Valerie Hill.
Well, one of my favorite projects that I was able to join together was when I was on the Sheriff's Department as the undersheriff. I began to notice uptick in human trafficking in our area. As I noticed this began to be a problem, I tried to look for ways to address it. When across my desk there came a grant that allowed for us to, as a law enforcement agency, partner with a nonprofit to address the issue of human trafficking. I'm a board member of Operation Safe House, so I got a hold of Kathy McAdare, our executive director, and said, is this something that we believe we could partner with? I brought together my executive team. We completed the grant. We were very successful in getting the grant, and now we have a very effective between law enforcement and nonprofits group in addressing human trafficking within our community. That's been very successful.
Thank you. Would you like to offer a rebuttal, Mr.
No,
Subaru?
that's fine.
Ms. Hill? Okay, again, if you'd like to offer questions of your own, you can tweet me at Brad Pomerantz. As well, you can tweet the Press Enterprise at PECOM_news. And we'll proceed to the second question. You will be the first one to answer this question, Valerie Hill. And the question is as follows. Scott Barber is completing his second year as city manager. What criteria will you use in assessing his performance as city manager?
Well, Scott had some big shoes to fill. We had gone through a Renaissance period where we had abundant money, and so then after that all fell down, here comes poor Scott in to try and fill the shoes of the city manager. I think he's still learning, he's growing, but what I believe and what I've always done with people is give them clear expectations. People need to know what's expected of them. If they know what's expected of them, a lot of the times they'll be able to measure up to what you're expecting of them. I think that needs to happen with Scott. It needs to be measurable, something that's measurable so that he can live up to it. And then with him living up to that, then we need to be able to give him feedback as to what else we would like him to be able to do.
Thank you. Mr. Subaru.
We know walking in the door as a brand new councilman, I'm going to meet with Scott, and I've already had a relationship with him. We've discussed a few things in the past just as a Ward 3 resident. And what I would do is I'd find out what our measuring goals are in place currently. And I would look at those and I would compare them with other cities. What have other municipalities done? So I would look outside Riverside and find out what others are doing or what there is in place for measurement for city managers specifically. I have looked online, and there are a number of outlets that have different performance measures. So I would employ those. I would speak to other council members. I would meet with our city manager, and I would let him know my style, get to learn his style, and also do a walk around, kind of like kick the tires, like an airplane captain. You're going to look around, you're going to talk to some of the employees, you're going to talk to some of the people in some of the different managerial positions, and you're going to find out exactly what they think.
I want to follow up, if I may, and ask about an article that appeared in the Press Enterprise today. As you know, there was an alleged incident with regard to a council aide who may or may not have pulled out a knife in a joking and or threatening way. We don't exactly know what happened. What we do know is that a California state agency, what's known as OSHA, came out with a fairly scathing report and suggested in the report, as reported by the PE today, that the city manager, Mr. Barber, did not act appropriately in handling this investigation. They argued that the investigation should have been handled by human resources as opposed to the city attorney. Yes. What I want to ask you is not even so much about this incident, but feel free to comment on it, is about that tension, that internal and inherent tension between the city council and the city manager. What do you do in a situation like this, where the city manager may have acted inappropriately? We'll start with Mr. Subaru.
Well, you'd have to review all the facts, and those aren't all known to me at this point. But from what I read on the article and things that I've read in the past, I've read about it extensively, is this particular issue was investigated. I don't know to what degree, and again, I'm not privy to all the information. However, I would find out if, in fact, we followed our own rules and our own guidelines, and if we deviated from those, I'd want to know why. The city council hires and fires the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk. And then they, in turn, hire and fire, in a sense, all the rest of the employees. So it would be a thing of reviewing what we've done and where we're going to go.
What we know, Valerie, is that the city manager chose to have the city attorney look into the issue, not human resources. The city attorney wound up bringing in an investigator. Again, it kind of begs the question, what about that internal tension, that inherent tension between a city council, and a mayor for that matter, and a strong city manager, which is inherent in the City of Riverside's charter?
Well, again, you need to set standards, you need to have expectations, and that means that if it's a personnel issue, you need to have some kind of standard made that will be handled by human resources, especially since a lot of city council or the city hall is female employees. And you don't want allegations of workplace violence to be ignored. There needs to be a standard how they will be handled. The experts are human resource. It should be handled by human resource. And that can be made clear through an expectation that will be done that way and without permission to do otherwise sought by the council.
Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about the city attorney now, and the first answer will go to you, Ms. Hill. The city attorney, Greg Priamos of Riverside, is proposing regulations that would prohibit project applicants from discussing their proposals with council members before the final hearing on the particular matter. What do you think about that proposed regulation?
I think that is not a good regulation. I would object to it strongly. I think all council members need to have an open door. They need to be able to hear all sides of an argument. That doesn't mean they have to agree with it, but they have to be able to hear all sides of an argument. And when arguments are filtered, sometimes you don't get all the information. So I do not think that a door should be shut to city council, or any policy made that would shut the door to a city council person.
Okay. Mr. Subaru.
Well, you know, your council members, they are the advocates for the people, for the business owners, and for investors into Riverside, as well as our employees at large and everybody that works for the city. So it's like a pizza in a sense, where it's a slice of the pie, so to speak, where, you know, you've got to be able to represent everybody, you've got to listen to their concerns, and you got to listen to where they're coming from on specific issues. So in this type of case, with not being able to talk to different business owners, as a city council person working as a cheerleader to bring them in, I'm going to be working with them to help get them through the system. So it would be very counterproductive, I believe, to shut the door on that and break down that communication. I think that it would be very detrimental to our city.
You've agreed on this issue. Any desire for a rebuttal?
No, I think we're in a total agreement.
We're in agreement on this. Let me ask you though, as we know, our friends in San Bernardino are looking at the question of the election of a city attorney versus the appointment of a city attorney. Some cities have appointed city attorneys like Riverside. Los Angeles, San Bernardino have elections. Do you think that Riverside should look at the possibility of electing its city attorney rather than appointing? Mr. Subaru.
You know, I think there would be a lot of factors that you'd have to take into consideration. You know, you'd have to look and see how these other cities are doing with their elected officials. You know, oftentimes with a police chief, them not being elected compared to a sheriff, sometimes there's a little bit of politics involved that sometimes is not good. You know, there's pressure from the city manager, let's say. So there's a lot of dynamics there, and I think it would have to be studied and looked at. I would say that if there was a problem, or if the council wouldn't be, if they're not strong enough to reel in the city attorney and how he's doing business, then it's up to that council to band together and do what they're supposed to do and be, you know, that legislative body.
If this proposal came onto the ballot, would you vote yes or no?
I think at this point I'd have to study it further. I'd have to look at it and see really what the dynamic is with our city attorney, and is he or she listening, and in this case it's a he, listening to our city council.
Ms. Hill.
I would disagree. I think that I don't see any value in an elected attorney. I think the attorney needs to work for the city council, needs to follow their direction, needs to be an advisor. I think that's mainly their role, is to advise the city council as to legal matters, and they're hired as an employee to do that, to give recommendations, legal recommendations, and not work as an equal elected official.
Could one argue, though, that if they are not directly elected and they are appointed, that they may have some nerves up here in giving advice, because if you give advice that the council doesn't want to hear, the council could terminate you? We could think about the Watergate scandal, for example. I don't mean to be that grandiose, but I think you know where I'm going.
I can see your point, but I still think that that's why it's great that there's not one city council person. You have a multitude of city council people that this person is working for and they're receiving advice from. And I again think it should be an employee who they could seek counsel from, and they could be able to get adequate, advice.
We have a question from Twitter. Of course, you can tweet us at Brad Pomerantz or at PECom_news. And the question deals with red light cameras. They are quite controversial. As you may know, the city of Los Angeles has eliminated its red light camera program. Where do you stand on red light cameras, Valerie Hill?
Well, it's interesting. We watched a car run through a solid red light on the way here. I'm not big on right turn red light cameras. That's not where the serious injury occurs, but I am very strong through red light cameras. I have seen the result through my career of what can happen when a person runs a red light camera, red light intersection. Lives are changed instantaneously. People are injured seriously. What'll happen is a lot of times somebody's waiting for a light to turn green, and they're anxious for the light to turn green, and they're sitting waiting to go. Somebody is then seeing the light turn yellow, and they're hurrying through the intersection and pick up speed. Those accidents cause serious injuries. I think this is a tool that we can utilize to prevent those kind of accidents.
Mr. Subaru.
I disagree. I'm not a proponent of red light cameras. I worked for the California Highway Patrol for 29 years. It's a traffic agency. You know, you need to have that officer discretion to actually see what's going on, get the big picture. And for me, a lot of people from what I've talked to, have a lot of difficulty with yellow lights as it is, and then adding the possibility of about a $600 fine really freaks them out. The majority of the red light cameras get the people that are making the right turn on red. They are not the accident producing folks that are out there. And as a result, the fines are very excessive, and people find or feel, to me, from what I've experienced talking to a vast majority of people, that they see this as nothing but a revenue tool, and they are not behind the red light cameras.
Would you like to rebut?
Yes, again, I'm not talking about the right turn cameras. I'm talking about the throughway cameras, which have reduced accidents in Riverside 46%. And I agree the fines are excessive, but there's ways of working with the court. Half of the fine is a court fee. And the courts are making it to where cities need to contact them and say, we need you to work with us. You're charging too much, you're taking away a tool that's actually going to save lives. And I've seen the result of it. This is a tool, I'm talking about the through cameras and the people that run straight through red lights.
Okay. Would you like to rebut?
Yes, I would.
Please.
You know, right now, the way it sits is we've got the fine levels the way they are, and at the same time, people that are going to run the red light cameras that are drunks or in pursuits, they're going to run those red light cameras no matter what. Or run the signal lights, rather, that have the red light cameras. So I disagree. The vast majority of the people, they do not see this as an educational tool. I don't think it stops the collision factor. And not only that, in the city of Riverside, our police department does not take non-injury crashes, which are about 80% of the wrecks. I don't believe the data is accurately showing the red light camera picture.
Okay, let us proceed. I know that both of you live right off Overlook Parkway,
Yes.
and so let's talk about it. In your mind, what would be the best outcome for the traffic gridlock as a result of what's going on at Overlook Parkway, that region known as Overlook Parkway? Who went first last time? Who remembers? Why don't we start with you, Mr. Subaru?
Very good. Well, you know, Overlook Parkway, I think the city had a chance to connect all the segments of Overlook Parkway a long time ago, and they didn't do so. And the way it sits now is it's going to be very, very difficult because of Prop R and Measure C going through the Greenbelt. To run all the traffic down through Overlook Parkway and then turn it down Washington Street and put it into Victoria, where you can't put a signal light because of Victoria Forever and because of Prop R and Measure C, I think it'll devastate Casablanca, and it'll just clog up the traffic that's already there and make it much, much worse. So our city needs a lot of east-west routes, but the time to have done that was a number of years ago. So my best case scenario would be to leave it just the way it is. The side roads, Crystal View Terrace, just keep it going the way it is. There's a lot of mitigation in effect right now. And simply leave it as is and not proceed further and take it right off the map.
Valerie.
This is something that Mike and I totally agree on. The only thing I might add is to strengthen his argument is that Measure C specifically says that you cannot go through the green belt and add traffic to it without a vote of the voters changing it. So if we were to try and put the Avenue C through that was talked about, we would see tons of lawsuits. And again, lawsuits would come from the Casablanca community, who've worked very, very hard to try and build their community up and would get a strong impact. I'm not big one on creating solving problems by creating new problems. And that's what this would do.
So what should we do? Should we go back to the voters? I understand that you both agree that the chance was 30 years ago when we missed that chance, but the problem is very severe. I mean, you live there, you know.
Yes.
What should we do instead of just throwing up our hands?
We're going to have to do a whole new EIR citywide to be able to move forward with anything, even to stop what's currently occurring. And during that EIR, we could take a look at possible options. But we've grown. We're the 12th largest city in the state of California and 6th largest in Southern California. So traffic is going to continue to be a problem. But I go back to the fact that we don't resolve problems by creating new ones, and this would not resolve the problem.
Well, I'd like you to respond as well and take into account the cut-through traffic. I believe that where you live, you get that cut-through traffic.
Yes. Actually, it may surprise a lot of people, but I am not against Overlook Parkway being connected. I don't know if it's just my way of doing business that I like to see dots connected, but personally, I don't have a huge problem with it. I can see where it might impact the area depending, but the big issue as a council person, I can't, with a good conscience, vote for that and then dump all that traffic into Washington and Casablanca. Casablanca, would need to have a railroad underpass before that could even happen, and it's just not going to work. It would bisect a community and devastate the place.
So what do we do?
I think we look at other ways to control our traffic.
Should we go back to the voters?
I don't know if the voters are going to be able to, there's a lot of educational that, it takes a lot of time to get to know all the factors. A lot of people don't know that the bridge that was designed originally was only a 1 lane in each direction over the Arroyo, and I had not known about that.
Should we go back to the voters?
I don't think the voters will be able to solve the problem. I think we need a new EIR to look at the traffic issue and make a decision once and for all. We don't need to kick the can down the road. There are people that have been coming to planning commission meetings for 30 and 40 years trying to get some kind of answer to what's going to happen with the Overlook Parkway. So we need to make that decision and then try and work on options for helping the traffic around the city.
Well, let me ask you, does the county have a responsibility here, Mr. Subaru?
No, this is inside Riverside, and the county talks about arterial routes and mostly has input on the freeway with Caltrans. But this is something that Riverside needs to solve. And again, I have full faith in our voters. I know they can make great decisions, but this is so complex, and you have to keep the emotions out and keep all the facts in. So it's a very difficult issue. The time to have done this and connected it was a long time ago, before a lot of the houses were built, and there would have been some parameters set, and we failed to do that.
Do you feel as if the county has a role?
I believe the county and the state have a role. I think they do need to look at arterial roadways. I think it's time that the state consider maybe having a freeway connect along Calico Road now. I think that would take a lot of the traffic out of the city of Riverside area. I believe that there's ways of utilizing property around the city of Riverside that would prevent people from cutting through.
Okay, at this time, we are giving the candidates an opportunity to ask questions of each other. Of course, if you would like to ask a question of the candidate, you can always tweet me at Brad Pomerantz, or of course, tweet the Press Enterprise at PECom_news. Mr. Subaru, do you have any questions you'd like to ask Ms. Hill?
No, I don't. I believe that the voters, want to know the issues about us and not what I'm concerned about with Ms. Hill.
Okay, that's your prerogative. Ms. Hill, would you like to ask a question of Mr. Subaru?
Well, I was given the opportunity to ask for questions, and I took it seriously. So I believe there's some unanswered questions from even the preliminary that I think just because Mr. Subaru hasn't taken the option, Mike, to do this, I think I should. Mike, we both share a concern for our senior community. I think we do. In fact, on your webpage, you specifically state, I am committed to maintaining funding sources for our senior centers like the Janet Goski Center. Yet you went on the record opposing Measure A, and I put my neck out and supported it. The Goski Center was looking at a proposed cut in city funding of $189,000, or 20% of their budget, if this measure had not passed. How can you balance what you said in your statement and yet endanger this kind of funding?
Oh, very simple. I was asked by the Press Enterprise, Alicia Robinson, a number of months ago, early on in the election, about which way I would vote as a specific voter myself. And as a candidate that wants openness and transparency with our city, and if you'd looked in the Press Enterprise, they do talk about that and call upon the city to keep things open and transparent, is when our city said that we would lose, for instance, 168 jobs. If you multiply that out times the average employee, that was about $13 million. That was about double what we needed for the 11.5% transfer. So in no way, shape, or form would I have allowed that to happen, because number one, the wish list for the city manager has to be voted on by the council. And I don't think there's a single council member that would have voted to eliminate anything to do with Janet Goski Center or make the cuts with the rank and file police and fire. I think it was a lot of hype. And for a candidate that wants to stand on openness and transparency, I couldn't in good conscience do it.
How was Measure A the antithesis of openness and transparency?
Well, there wasn't anybody that was actively campaigning, neither was I, for no on Measure A. I just felt that the city was not being open and honest with us. One, about having the voters vote to be able to do the transfer in the first place. There was a lot of argument back and forth, but the courts obviously ruled that we were supposed to vote on this, and the city had taken a position that no, that didn't need to happen. So that's the start of this. But when they start talking about all these things that were going to be cut and it was highly inflated, I just cannot go along with not being open and transparent to our people. I cannot do it.
Would you like to respond, Ms. Hill?
Yes, and there's two parts of that, how it was handled initially, and there are several people that maybe not like to have how it was handled. But this did not raise taxes. This was not a raise. This was a transfer that had existed since our city was chartered. And you know, there's a saying that says you are what you do, not what you say you'll do. And we have said as a community that we want to take care of our seniors, we want to take care of our kids walking to school, we want to take care of graffiti. And this was a very small amount that is on everybody's bill that helps pay for those services. And I don't think that it was a matter of transparency, it was a matter of doing the right thing for the right reasons, and the voters overwhelmingly voted for it. So,
Were you surprised by the margin of victory, and let alone the victory itself?
initially I was. I really, like I said, thought I was putting my neck out on a limb.
If
when
I remember
first
correctly,
supported
you
it.
were the only candidate in the Ward 3 primary that supported Measure A, is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. Were you surprised, sir, by the extent to which Measure A passed?
Actually, I was not. I was not surprised at all. You know, with as much money that was put forward by all the public safety unions and others to have for yes on Measure A, and there was not a dime spent on no on Measure A, it didn't surprise me one bit.
What does it say to you that it did pass by such a large margin when so many elected officials, candidates were coming out against it? I mean, the voters seem to have really zeroed in on the issue, and they gave a resounding yes to Measure A.
Yeah, they did, but I think it was a lot of hype. And as far as somebody sticking their neck out, I believe that was me. To go along with the flow with everybody else and jump on the bandwagon, I could have easily done so. And I had a number of people told me that I'd already be sworn in and be the councilman. So to me, I think I took the high road and I did what was, you know, seen as not something about going with the flow and standing up for what was right. My water bill, just for July was, and we can look at it right here, was $750.94.
But does Measure A impact that?
Yes, it does. With the tiered rates and the money that gets transferred, there's nothing to stop the city from raising the rates continually to
But
grow
it
the
doesn't-
11.5.
Measure A does not raise any taxes or any rates. It transfers money from the utility to the city,
Yes, it
correct?
does. That's correct. But I do want to be clear on something. My position on Measure A, the voters voted for it, and I'm perfectly fine with that. For me, to them, it was about voting on, you know, what Prop 218 said, was to vote on whether or not we were going to do the transfer. That's what the law called for. So from my end, I will completely abide by the will of the voters. I think it's something that if they say they want it, then we go with it.
Okay.
But I will be there to ensure that the money is spent wisely and that there is not excessive fees and that that money will be held in an open and transparent manner.
Any response, Ms. Hill?
Yes, the transfer that's done on this, the 11.5%, is we are lucky we own our own water company. And so if you don't own your own water company, like my daughter who lives in Corona, there is a fee that's paid that they kick back to the city government. And this is no different than what is done there, only we own our own water. We're using money to help pay for services that's important to our citizens.
Okay.
So as far as being honest and transparent, it wasn't a matter of saving money in a bill. It was a matter of doing what we're already doing and providing services for our people.
Okay, let us proceed with more questions from myself, the moderator. Of course, if you have any questions, just tweet us at Brad Pomerantz or at PECom_news. And the next question deals with economic development. As we know, redevelopment has been eliminated by the state. Riverside had no enterprise zones, and that program was all but eliminated. So I want to ask you about economic development. What measures do you recommend for accountability in economic development efforts by the city of Riverside? And why don't we start with Ms. Hill?
Well, you know, Brad, we have a very large city staff. The job is marketing. Their job should be really marketing our city. They really should. And they should be able to bring in the $1.5 million that it takes to operate, to pay them a year. You know, we have examples of that in our city already. If you look at our airport is cost neutral. I didn't know much about the airport when I first started running. So I went out and I met with with Mark Riley, and he gave me a tour. And I was amazed by what they have out there and what they're able to lease. And they have a 727 jet that they have now partnered with Cal Baptist to teach a aviation science program. And they are able to be cost neutral. And as a city, our people should be able to sell the city and bring in that revenue that we need, that we lost with redevelopment. We have to rethink how we do it.
Mr. Subaru.
Well, as far as measurable results, I would say that when our people are shopping and dining and spending their money in Riverside and our tax base is growing, I think that that's a good indication. Right now, I've talked to numerous people, hundreds of people, and they've told me that most of the time on weekends they take off to other cities because there's more of a selection of restaurants. Be it as it may, that's what they're saying they're doing, and they're spending $4 a gallon to go do so 18 to 20 miles away. So I would like to see what's in place currently with our city and find out what they use as a measuring tool. I've spoken to literally hundreds of business owners that say that we're not as business friendly as we should be or could be. And I know that the city believes that they're taking great strides at correcting that, or that they've overcome that. Well, at the very least, we have a perception problem, and that's going to keep people from investing or building in Riverside. So we need to be creative. We need to be as competitive as possible with other cities, and as a council person, they should be the cheerleaders to be able to bring in these businesses and boost Riverside so that our people spend their time and money here, and better yet, people from other cities come here as well.
Can you rebuttal, if you like?
Well, a bit of a rebuttal. I've been walking neighborhoods like crazy, and I'm not running into the people that Mike is talking about. Most people love it here. If you haven't gone down to our downtown area in the evening, there's always something jumping and going on. On occasion, I'll run into somebody that would like to see a restaurant that may not be here. But they love the activity here in Riverside. There's something almost every night to do. And I feel that we could expand upon that. We could improve upon that, and we need to improve upon that. But I do not think the majority of people think Riverside is not a place to be able to enjoy and entertain.
So let me ask you,
yes.
if I may, along these lines,
Yes.
Include it in your rebuttal. What is your top economic development priority for Ward 3?
That would be to keep our businesses in Riverside that we currently have, and it would be to grow our business base so that that creates jobs. We have people that need jobs here.
What about unique to Ward 3, though?
Unique to Ward 3, I don't think there's anything specific. I know that Nordstrom Rack is going to be very unique to Riverside. It's going to bring people from outside the community, and they're going to spend their money here.
Me.
But when people say they love it here, of course they love Riverside. We all love Riverside. I do. I have a deep love for it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be working so hard on this campaign to be able to serve the people in Riverside. But at the same time, I'm hearing from people, they take off to Corona Crossings, Dos Lagos, Victoria Gardens, and even Moreno Valley. And they say that they like to have more selection, at least on the weekends, and they come home to the mom and pop restaurants or the local ones on weekdays.
Other than being a cheerleader and knowing we have no redevelopment abilities, how would you bring new business into Ward 3? And I'll ask you the same question as well.
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is sit down with all the business owners and ask them where the red tape is, where their hurdles are, what it's going to take, or to their mind, what it will take to help grow our businesses. And currently, I'm hearing that they're not happy. They'd rather take the path of least resistance and go other places than our people. We export our people to, not only to Orange County to work, but now we're exporting them to other places to shop and dine. So I want to sit down with all our big and small business owners, and I want to find out what they think. They're the ones investing. They're the ones putting their money into Riverside.
Do you have a specific idea, if we may, Ms. Hill? A very specific idea?
Well, there's a lot of ideas I have, but one is every year is in Las Vegas, they have a convention where different people that are business owners are looking for cities that they could, that you sell your city, basically, to these people, and they look at coming. I think we need to send a contingent to that. We need to court our city. We need to sell our city. We need to be able to tell them it's a safe place to come to. We need to be able to say, this is how we'll help you through the process. We need to be able to show them the detail that there are people that will use their services and try and see them if they will come.
Let me ask you, as you probably know, the city manager, Scott Barber, opposed having a specific council member go to that convention.
Correct.
And that council member chose to use his own funds to go to that convention. It again begs the question about the power of the city manager. What do you think about that situation? What would you do?
I think that, well, you can look at what happened in the city of Temecula. City of Temecula sent a contingent of people, law enforcement, fire, city council, chamber members, community leaders to Las Vegas. They met with a large group. They told them about Temecula, what they could offer from all the different perspectives, and out of that came their Promenade Mall. That brings in a huge tax base. So I think that to not use every resource you can to bring local businesses in is not a good option.
What about you, Mike? I want to give you that chance.
I don't have a problem with some of our council people and others going to other areas to bring in businesses regionally, as long as the money is spent very wisely and we don't send a whole entourage. It should just be one person, from the council representative and whoever else from our business side and chamber folks. But you know, I talked to a number of business owners and said, before these people want to invest in business, you've got to be able to provide something that they're going to want to bring their family to. And to me, you know, we talk about seizing our destiny in Riverside. I believe that we have to become more of a destination before we can truly seize our destiny. We have to be that destination. We may not be the destination, but we can be a destination.
I want to follow up on the question of small business and traffic, because as you probably know, and I'll ask both of you this question, but I'll start with you, Mike. The city recently won a lawsuit filed by the Lucky Greek restaurant. That restaurant sued, claiming lost business because of some traffic realignment around the Magnolia Underpass project. Now, Ward 3 is filled with small businesses. And so how would you look to advocate for the interests of small business when historically small business has been a job creator, they bring in sales tax, while at the same time looking at the overall health of the city?
Yes. Well, the small businesses often service the big businesses, and they're vital. In the case of the Lucky Greek, I've spoken to the owner many times, and him and I stood out right on Merrill, and believe me, you're not going to get hit by a car because there aren't any. The people that own the carpet store a couple doors down, they decided to fold up their doors. They said it's time to retire. There's no more business. Pat from Pat's TV, his business has gone down quite considerably. Ilo Hair, next door to him, has gone down considerably. All the business owners, I spoke to each and every one of them, and they said that things did not go right as promised.
We understand, but how would you represent the interests of small business in Ward 3?
I would make sure that the red tape is cut, that we have look at what we promise our businesses and not renege on that. The businesses were told that there was going to be a marquee that was going to advertise their businesses, paid for by the city, you know, because of what they did with the intersection. The business owners were all told that that intersection was going to go down 3 feet. As it turned out, it went down about 15 inches. So we could have kept the signal light there and routed all that traffic down Merrill.
Valerie Hill.
Well, I think we need to use resources like a Chamber of Commerce. They're the eyes and ears of our business community. Our chamber mixers are always well attended. They have different area groups. We have the Magnolia Center group that meets, and they bring forward a lot of concerns from the business community. I think we need to have regular meetings with those groups, regular meetings with the chamber, and hear what they're saying. Listen, effective communication makes for effective government, and find ways and solutions and involve them in the process.
What's your sense of the Lucky Greek situation, the lawsuit?
Well, I think what happened is there was a change in what happened with when redevelopment funding went away, promises had to go away. I too, a lot of times before I go out walking, decide to go there for breakfast. On the weekends, it is very well filled with customers. I think it's during the week where they suffer. With that case, I think there was a reason that promises couldn't be met. And I think that's what the judge looked at, is they realized that there was problems that were out of the hands of the people making the decision.
Is it okay if we move on, sir?
Sure. I was just going to add that the Lucky Greek weekends, and it's even worse on weekends than weekdays, and you could literally lay out in the middle of Merrill and you probably wouldn't get hit by a car.
I want to move on, if I may, and talk about the situation surrounding project labor agreements. As you know, project labor agreements require that all public projects, contractors, whether union or non-union, pay union wages, and the key is pay into the applicable union's benefits program. You also know that before the governor, as we speak, is a measure which would require charter cities to pay prevailing wage. Not a huge issue in Riverside, because Riverside has been looking at that issue, but there was a significant controversy growing out of project labor agreements in connection with Riverside Community College District. So as a general proposition, I'd like to get your sense on your position with regard to project labor agreements. We'll start with Valerie Hill.
Well, I don't agree with project labor agreements. I am a supporter of prevailing wage. I think when people have done the training, they deserve the pay. It's set by the state. But this is one topic I can't agree with. I believe in competitive bidding. 4 out of every 5 contractors in the city of Riverside are open shop. And if we only allowed them to do PLAs, they wouldn't be able to afford to pay the difference. And so we're eliminating local business people from being able to bid on our process. I'll give you an example. I have a neighbor that owns CA Construction. And he has done a lot of construction. He does good work. He comes in on target, but they're an open shop. Now, if they were going to have to honor a PLA agreement, they're going to end up having to raise their costs by at least 7% on any project. And so being a wise owner of taxpayers' money, you wouldn't want to have to pay more money than you would.
Mr. Subaru.
You know, I'm a steward of the people's money, and I don't like to see money spent unwisely at all. And that's where, you know, we're tightening of a belt of, you know, how many managers, how many employees, things like that. Everything I've read, and I've studied this very extensively on PLAs, the Project Labor Agreement, is that most of the municipalities that use them find that their projects come in on time, at or sooner than what was bid, or sometimes they'll actually come in under bid, and less cost overruns. A lot of the cases of things being built without the project labor agreements have had extensive cost overruns, and I believe that if you look at the data, you'll find that it's there. And at the same time, the union prevailing wage and the way it works out is that they provide in their combination mix with the contract is they provide lead people. And these lead people have often been able to replace a lot of the foremen and supervisors and have actually cut costs. That's what the data is showing.
Let me ask you, sir. I'm sure you know Virginia Blumenthal, I should say. Yes. She is a trustee at the Riverside Community College District. And she has said on the record that the PLA at RCC drove up costs up to 20% as it related to Measure C. I know we all love and respect Virginia, so I want to get a sense about what you think of her comment, given your apparent support of PLAs.
Well, I'd have to look at the data, and I'd have to look at the cost overruns that came after the fact and find out exactly what the total cost was and the total time span. I know that with schools, they do a lot of things with the certificates of participation in their building. So some of the funding and some of the way it's done is set up quite differently than what most of the municipalities do. Generally, most municipalities don't rely on certificates of participation. The schools do. So I'd have to look at the data to give a qualified answer, and I'd have to look at the total picture of the of how much was actually spent and how much time.
I'm sorry, any response?
Well, this is where Mike and I disagree. I sit on the RCCD Foundation, and it's absolutely correct that the result of the PLAs have driven up costs at RCC. But it's not just there. As undersheriff, I oversaw $1 million projects within the County of Riverside, everything from jail expansions to building whole new station facilities. And I could tell you that PLAs do drive costs up. It's the only way, and it eliminates local contractors from being able to bid on projects.
I want to use my discretion to ask you a kind of a broad question about a general tone, I guess you would say. You know, we all know and love the Inland Empire, and these have been tough years over the last 5 years or so. But I think it's fair to say, and most experts would say, that Riverside has done pretty well. Yes. They've really weathered the storm quite well. And if you think about our friends in San Bernardino in the high desert, they have not weathered the storm as well. And so as you're both running your campaigns, you do get a sense from Valerie Hill's campaign that we're doing all right and we just want to keep, you know, moving forward and good days are ahead. And with Mr. Subaru's campaign, it's been rough and skies are gray and I'm going to try to make it better. And so I want to get a sense from you about that different tone, because I do feel like you're speaking about different Riversides. And why don't we start with Mr. Subaru?
Well, you know, I'm basing this on what most people that I talk to discuss with me when I'm at their door. And I literally walked all 36 precincts in Ward 3. It took me 12 and a half weeks, 7 days a week, 6 to 7 hours a day, and I did them all. And I'm doing them all again. And I will continue to walk until Election Day. So I've literally spoken to thousands of people. And I love Riverside. All my fellow Riversiders, especially Ward 3, they love Riverside. And we want to make sure that Riverside, down the road, 30 years, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, is on solid footing, that it has good economic base. And right now, from hearing a lot of the people, that they spend a lot of their time, you know, as it is, commuting out to Orange County and spending their money there, we're not spending money and increasing our tax base. We're not buying our own roads, so to speak. We have a lot of infrastructure that is starting to deteriorate, our roads, curbs, and gutters. And what we need to do is we need to ensure that the decisions are made that protect us for years down the road. I love Riverside, don't get me wrong. I'm about safeguarding what a wonderful city we have.
Okay, Valerie Hill.
Well, I've also been walking for weeks and knocking on doors, and I feel like Mike and I are talking to completely different people. What I do is I don't tell them what my plan is because it's on my door hanger, my handout I give them. I ask them what a person running for city council should be thinking about for the city of Riverside. Any problems or concerns. And what I get over and over is minor little quality of life issues like the sidewalks maybe need to be fixed, or they'll talk about a street light they would like to see in a certain location. But what they resoundingly say is, but we're really happy with the city. We think the city fathers have done a good job. They're doing a good job. We're really, really happy with it here.
Okay, I'm going to pass on the rebuttal because we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to talk about our friends at San Bernardino. As you know, San Bernardino is bankrupt, and many experts point to the weight of pensions as one of the main reasons why San Bernardino went bankrupt. So with that background in mind, let's talk about CalPERS. As you probably know, in about 2 years, CalPERS is making actuarial changes that require a more honest accounting of pension costs, which will result in 5 years of steep increases to create a new baseline of contributions. So Riverside spent about $51.1 million on pension costs in the last fiscal year. 7 years from now, in light of these CalPERS changes, the city can expect that pension costs would top $80 million. I'd like to ask, where is Riverside going to find that extra $30 million a year? We'll start with you, Mr. Subaru.
Well, again, this is exactly why my concern is to grow and expand our tax base by growing our businesses and keeping people at home spending their money here. You know, what needs to happen is we need to do a very good evaluation to find out exactly how many employees we need at our city, not to lay them off, but just through attrition to either not replace some. My understanding is with EDA, with redevelopment, when redevelopment closed, a lot of managers were put into different positions with the city, and management is quite top-heavy according to a lot of employees I talked to. So we need to really seriously look at that, and we need to find out exactly how many people we need, at what levels, and we need to possibly reduce our workforce, maybe not, but we do it through attrition. At the same time, we are working, the cities are, all municipalities, the state, the county, with getting our employees to pay a little bit more into their pensions. Now again, what happened was for quite some time is that we didn't pay or increase their base pay, but we increased what the contribution was. And that was offered to them, and that was almost forced upon them. This was our people in office at the time. So we need to rethink that, and we need to readjust so that we'll have a adequate contribution.
Okay, so where do you think $30 million will come from? We've heard attrition. What ideas might you have?
I don't disagree with Mike. I used attrition within our own department when I was the sheriff's department overseeing a $500 million budget and being cut every year. I had to be able to come in on target. I came on target every single year, and I used attrition and not filling positions for salary savings and benefit savings. So I don't disagree with it. I've done it. I've been there. Also, I do think that I believe in the collective bargaining process. It's much like your homes. Your home gets a certain value. Property values go up, property values fall. But you have to go with what the going market is. Well, I think with collective bargaining, people have to look what the real budget is, and eventually they come to the table and make agreements that will help everybody.
Okay, I think we're somewhat in agreement, so I'm going to go to the next question if we may, because our time is short. I want to talk about ambulance service. We spoke about this during the primary conversation, and I do want to really zero in on the question of AMR, which provides non-emergency services to Riverside in a monopoly. There are no competitors, there are no bids. We know there's a workshop coming up this Tuesday to discuss the issue, but if you were a sitting city council member right now, would you look to change the arrangement whereby AMR is given a monopoly over non-emergency services? And it's the only franchise, we know that, and let us also remember that AMR has a long history of political contributions to various elected officials. I'm not suggesting anything untoward, but I do want to get a sense from you. We'll start with Ms. Hill.
Oh, well, this matters language way too long. I mean, it shouldn't take this long to be able to figure this out. In fact, Brad, this morning was an editorial in the Press Enterprise regarding this, and I completely agree with their assessment that Riverside's ambulance policy should focus on providing the best, to quote them, best, most effective service to residents. And Government should not get involved in protecting any business, and monopolies are never a good thing. Competition's good. Competition makes for better service, and I would push for us to be able to have a competitive process through the ambulance service.
If you can answer quickly, because we're very short on time.
Yes, I believe it should be open to open bid. I think that there shouldn't be any stipulations put on other than can you perform the minimum requirements that the city sets. There should not be any extra things put on them. Non-emergency transport should be a separate contract from the emergency transport. Should be two different contracts completely.
Right.
And AMR should not have a monopoly on this, and I have not received any contributions from AMR.
And have you?
No.
No. Okay.
But
Any
I
ambulance
believe,
companies?
I have not.
EMS?
Pardon me?
EMS? AMR's?
No, I have not. But I believe Mr. Subaru has.
Have you received any campaign contributions from any ambulance companies?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
And it's not AMR.
Okay, fair enough. Very briefly, I'd like to offer you a chance to ask one question of Mr. Subaru. You've exercised that option. We don't have a lot of time, but if you'd like to ask one quick question.
Okay. Mike, and this does bother me, so I'll be honest with you. We both stated on the record that we love the city. You've said it several times tonight, and I believe you do love the city, and want to be able to continue, and we both want to be able to continue our public service. But the Riverside Council seat is not your first experience with running for office. Since mid-2011, you filed and started a campaign seeking a seat in the state assembly, and instead decided to withdraw after some large campaign contributions were given to you, and run for a county supervisor seat where you lost. Now you're running for a city council. With all this switching and running, why should Riversiders believe that you distinguish public service between just wanting to be an elected official?
Well, actually, I would like to be an elected official because I would like to help better my community. Some of the same issues that you find in the city of Riverside, you also find with the county of Riverside. And the thing that you mentioned about the state assembly, that was about 1 month that I was in that, and I was asked to champion a cause to be able to bring some openness and transparency to Riverside County. And the same thing is true with Riverside City. It's the largest city in Riverside County, and some of the same issues that face Riverside County face Riverside City. So I'm about public service. It's about changing and making my environment that I live in and I work in better, and making things a lot better for my children down the road, looking 20, 30 years down the road. I want to be able to look back and say I helped make my community a better place. It's all about public service.
At this time, I want to thank both candidates. You both did an outstanding job. We have time for closing statements. We'll start with Mr. Subaru.
Well, thank you all for viewing, and it's been fun, and I love our city. It's a vibrant, beautiful place. We've got a lot of things that we need to work on, though, to make sure that for our kids and our grandkids that we're going to have a solvent city and that we're going to be on good, strong footing. And we're going to be tackling issues like the library rebuild and also our preserving our historic Chinatown. And we've got a lot of curb and gutter issues and streets. A lot of people are complaining about the potholes, and we can fix those, and we can get past those things. But we have to work together collaboratively, and we've got to work as hard as we can, roll up your sleeves and get to work and help make Riverside a better place. I would like to thank all the voters in Ward 3 that put me out on top on the primary election. I got 46% of the vote, and I thank you. And for those that did not vote for me, I want to earn your support and trust. You can contact me on my cell phone anytime at 951-515-1663 or my website at Mike4Riverside.com.
Thank you, sir. Valerie Hill.
Well, what we're really doing today is interviewing for a job, and you, the voters, are going to hire us. With that frame of mind, I would ask you to look at resumes. Look at my references. I'm endorsed by the Riverside Fire Association, the Riverside Police Association, the Greater Riverside Chamber of Commerce, the former mayor, Ron Loveridge, the current mayor, and a lot of community leaders. Those are my references. They will confirm that I'm a proven leader, proven problem solver, and dedicated long-term public servant. I could start to work on day one. I didn't just decide to run for this position. I was approached by several positions. I only want to serve Riverside. When I was approached to run for other things, I focused on Riverside. This is where my love is. This is where I want to be. I want to address the quality of life issues, relearn the way we do redevelopment, connect City Hall more effectively to public institutions, including the state and county. I believe through teamwork and consensus building, we can foster without sacrificing the common good and enable to realize a better tomorrow. And I thank all the voters who are out there and listening.
And I thank you so much. Please do not forget Election Day, November 5th. You are looking at the next council member from Ward 3 for the City of Riverside. On behalf of the Raincross Group, Charter Communications, and the Press Enterprise, my name is Brad Palmer. Thank you so much for watching.
Oh, thanks, Brad.